Hi friends, I'm excited to share a new layout with you today for the Vicki Boutin design team. I had a lot of fun creating this layout and kind of stepped outside of my comfort zone, outside of the bubbly, bright, happy colors, and I challenged myself to create sort of a creepy, spooky kind of layout, and so that's what I'm going to do here. So I started with the alpha stamps that Vicki Boutin created and produced that are available on her website. So these alpha stamps come with the dies that match. And so what I did is I took the letters that I'm going to be using to spell the words for the title, and I dragged my ink pad kind of, you could see halfway across the letters and then another color on the bottom half. So the color that I used at the top is a 49 in Market ink called Green Jean. And then the color at the bottom is a Distress Oxide called Crackling Campfire. And I was trying to be really careful not to have my two ink pads like touch. When I was doing the orange ink, I didn't want to drag it through the green ink that I had just done that's wet. So I did have a little bit of space, and I went back with just a little bit of water and some ink that I had smudged on my craft mat to fill in the spaces that I had missed. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I also, on some of the letters where I had scraped the ink pad across, it kind of looked streaky a little bit just because I didn't do it. Like I didn't kind of go back and blot in all the areas. So I made it a little bit messier with the water and the ink in that way. So here I'm stamping the second word. These two colors, the turquoise, like that dark aqua color, is the 49 in Market Rainforest. And then the purple that matches this collection really well, the Halloween add-on to Curiosities in Willow Grove, that Distress Oxide color is Seedless Preserves. So I got my letters there, and these are the metal dies that go with them. So in full transparency, I was going to use the metal dies to cut them out, and then I just decided I wanted to fussy cut them. So I go ahead and put the metal dies down and tape them down and get all the like halfway through, and then I decide, nope, I'm going to cut them myself, because I really like when I stamp letters, I want the edges, like I don't want any white edges, and I want it to be super tight to the letter. So I just decided the best way for me to do that and not make any mistakes was just to fussy cut them. So I went ahead and did that. But the metal dies are there for all of you who do not enjoy fussy cutting. That is much easier than what I did. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the background. I am using Foundations Mixed Media White Cardstock, and the color that I'm starting with is the 49 in Market Daffodil. This is just going to give me kind of like a starting point. So right now it looks bright and happy, but it's going to get spooky here any second. So I start with the yellow, and I'm just brushing that on with my ink blending brush. So I'm going to get a kind of a full coverage. I did want to leave white edges because I, didn't want the color to go all the way to the edge. So you kind of see the color is sort of down the center and a little bit fatter in the middle, because I know that my photos, I kind of knew that everything was going to go linear across the page in some way. So I knew it needed to be a little bit wider right there. So what I'm doing here is I am taking out some of the laser cuts from the Halloween add-on kit that goes with Curiosities in Willow Grove. And I love the laser cuts from 49 in Market. If you have never gotten to use them or see them, they are amazing. The detail on the tree is just fascinating to me. And that it cut out and it actually, like, you're able to punch it out without tearing off all of the limbs is amazing to me. So I think that the laser cuts are probably one of my favorite products that come out from 49 in Market, just because I think they're brilliant. So I'm going to be using that tree. And then the little skeleton guy, he is so cute, and he goes right along with my son's Halloween costume. So I knew as soon as I saw him, I knew I needed to use him. And then I'm going to also use that spider web that's up there that I just pulled off. That's a laser cut, but I will be doing some things to that. So that is not going to be used in its pure form. Oh, and that was Ruby just now waving at the camera. I don't usually scrapbook during the day, but for this layout, it was one afternoon that we'd had off of school and we were both up here creating. And so she kind of came and waved at the camera. Okay, so this stencil that I'm using is one of the brand new stencils that I don't even know if they've actually been posted to Vicki Boutin's website yet, but this is one of the stencils from set 3, one of the very, very brand new ones, and I absolutely love every single stencil in set 3, and we'll be using all of them. So this was just the one that looks like overlapped circles. And so what I did is I did a little bit of gray. That Distress Oxide, I used a combination of hickory smoke, it's kind of like a dark gray, and then black soot. I kind of just put a little bit of both of those on my brush and then smudged it through the stencil. I'm also adding a little crackling campfire is the orange, and then that turquoise again is Rainforest from 49 and Market. So what I'm doing here is I kind of wanted it to look like a little bit of kind of like a spooky forest. And I don't know why I thought the stencils that I'm using would make it look like a spooky forest, but it actually ends up kind of working. So this stencil is new to me. Probably many of you have it, but it is from set 2 from Vicki Boutin's stencil set. So this was set 2, those little teeny tiny circles, and I absolutely love them. So I added those on the left, and then I decided I needed to go back and add a little bit more color on the right because my photos do go pretty much all the way to the edge. So I'm adding some more grays and turquoise. And what I was doing here, I was not trying to make a muddy mess with all the colors on top of one another. But the Distress Oxides actually do really well layering on top of one another. You don't usually get like a brown muddy mess unless you're like really trying to. So you can layer color over color over color really well with those because they have that kind of that white or chalky undertone. You're able to layer those stamp colors on top of one another. Okay, so I've got my stenciling mostly done. And now I'm going, like I laid everything back down and I noticed that it was a little bit too bright and yellow in the center, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the seedless preserves. And that color on top of the yellow that I'm putting it on does look a little bit pinker than purple, but it actually works together. So I added a little bit of gray mixed in with it, and then you get it, then it becomes a little bit more spooky. Sorry, I can't really think of another word to describe it. Like I wanted it to look not grungy because I'm not a fan of grunge. But really I did kind of, I don't know. It's hard to describe. I just didn't want it to be, I wanted it to be really Halloween-y. And I do think I end up achieving that look here. So I'm going to go back under the tree, underneath the purple. I'm going to go back and add a little bit more orange so it kind of looks like it just fades down. And really what I was thinking here behind the tree, so I'm in Texas, and on Halloween, number one, it's always hot. So trick-or-treating is always hot in Texas where I am. And then also it's always light outside when we go trick-or-treating. So it gets dark as we're going along, but it stays light really long. We have to wait really, past bedtime to go trick-or-treating in the dark. So there's always like sunsets and, kind of some bright pictures on Halloween. So I kind of wanted the behind the tree to look like the sun was setting and it was going down as we started trick-or-treating. And that is, I think like when I look at it, that's what I see. So that was kind of the intention there. Okay, so then I took my letters that I had stamped and fussy cut, and they were just a little bit too bright and happy. So I took the black ink, the black soot Distress Oxide, and I started by inking the edges, but then I just sort of abandoned that and went full throttle with dipping my finger into the ink pad and adding some layers of, distress to them. So here what I did is I took my Versamark adhesive pad and I smashed the laser cut, the spiderweb laser cut into there. And then I am adding embossing powders on the laser cut. So I have 4 different colors that I end up using. One of them is a pewter metallic finish from Zing. It was an American Crafts brand. And then from Stampendous, I used Age Gold embossing enamel. And then Distress, it has an embossing powder, the Distress line, and I used Scorched Timber, I don't know. No, actually, I think it says Scorched Timber. And then I used from Ranger a holographic embossing powder. So I used all 4 of those to get the look that I wanted. And I love how that ended up looking. So kind of goldish, silverish, pewterish. And I love how it looks sort of like a spider web in the shadows might look with water dripping off of it. So that's what I was thinking. I don't know. Who knows? I love how it looks on the page. And I love that it's shiny and shimmery on a page that I wasn't doing any shine or shimmer. So there you have it. Okay, so with the tree, I am using craft foam to pop that up. So just on the trunk of the tree, the limbs and things, they're kind of too spindly and skinny to be able to add too much craft foam to them. And they don't really need it because they stay up on their own. I kind of bent them up after I had put the tree down, like on the craft foam. I just kind of bent up the limbs and that seemed to work. So you'll see what I mean here. So I'm going to put that down and then I'm going to kind of lift. Oh, not yet. Wanted to make sure it was lifted in all the right places, I think. Okay, so I get it glued down and then I'm able to bend up because the limbs and things that come off of the tree, I do have those on top, layered on top of my photos because they don't take away from the photo or anything in the photo that I'm drawing attention to. And then I did not mention the title, Masked and Marvelous, is referring to my son. So for Halloween this year, or the year that I'm scrapbooking, the only thing he cared about was this mask. He wanted the mask that he could put on and that had different images and lit up, and he wanted his whole costume to be centered around this mask. So I thought that it definitely deserved its own page because he loved it so much, and he was able to do like that little rainbow swirl that's in one of the photos, and the heart and the lightning bolt and lots of others. I have lots of pictures, but I just picked 3 that I loved. So he just adored everything about this mask. And then the rest of his costume, he wanted to go with the mask. So that was quite a challenge because I'm like, what does one wear with a light up mask? Who knows? So we ended up going with a skeleton glow in the dark costume. And so when he was walking around, once it got dark outside, the black parts you couldn't really see, and all you could see was the skeleton walking around. And he thought that was just super cool. And we've never really done like a creepy costume before. It's always been, something happy like dinosaurs or a policeman or, different things like that. So he really wanted like a kind of a spooky Halloween costume. And so I finally was like, okay, fine. And he loved it. He loved every minute of this costume. Okay, so I went back and tore off a piece of the pattern paper from the Halloween assortment kit that I love so much, that has all of the colors in it. And I just tucked that underneath the photos and the tree right there. And I had to go back and add glue underneath it because I had already glued down the pictures. And the pictures are glued straight to the background. So there's no craft foam under the pictures. Just the tree and the skeleton are popped up. So here I'm going to put my letters down. I'm going to get those kind of lined up. And I decided to add washi tape from one of Vicki's past collections. I think that's from Where to Next. It was lots of collections ago. So there was an orange washi tape that has white polka dots. And so I just tore off one little piece of that, and that's going to act kind of as the shelf for my letters to sit on. So I did tear it. So on the bottom side of it, it's torn, but the side that the letters are sitting on is straight across. I used my T-square ruler to make sure it's straight. And I always add adhesive to washi tape because it seems like it sticks right now, and then later you go back and it's lifted. So just make sure you add your own adhesive if you're going to add it to a layout like this. And then for the letters, I only added adhesive just right in the center, like right down the middle of those letters, because now I'm going to go and poke holes and add some hand stitching down the center of the letters, down the washi tape, and then also down, I added another piece of black patterned paper, that black and white patterned paper, plaid patterned paper that I used for the photos. I added a little strip of that under the word marvelous. And then I had a hard time knowing where to do my journaling on this layout. Like there wasn't really a natural place that didn't distract from the whole scene that I was creating. So I decided to just go around the edge, and I had enough to say to go all the way around the page. Shocking, I know. I usually always have to end up adding journaling lines, but for this it was perfect, and I was able to get it just right all the way around. I did not go across the bottom, so just the two sides and the top. And then here I pulled out some little black crystals, and I used these because I have little teeny tiny ones, and I added those to the tree just because I wanted the tree to have a little bit of sparkle, and also to kind of look like the knotting that you have in a tree trunk. So I went ahead and added that, and then that is the final layout. So I had so much fun creating this. There's a close-up of that web that I made, and I absolutely enjoyed creating this layout, and it was definitely a challenge for me to do something that was a little bit darker and more moody, and I feel like I rose to the challenge here. So I love how this layout looks, and most importantly, my son Maxwell loves this layout. So he was like, Mom, it's so cool. So that was definitely felt really good for him to say. So I hope you have fun creating, and I will see you next time.